is UMass Sports Weekly.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of UMass Sports Weekly. I'm your host, Casey Johnson. Got a good show lined up for you today. Joining me at the table to lead off the show, to my right, Chris Corso, and to my left, Chris Potomatis. Guys, thanks for joining me. So leading off here, we're going to talk about MLB. I'll be dropping puns for a while. To start this off, we got Chris and Chris at the dish. So, Chris, I'll start with you right now. Get it? Chris Corso. All right, so two hottest teams in the MLB right now, Braves and Oakland. Seen some good baseball out of them. Braves 11-1, really impressive start. Why don't you give me a little insight on the Braves so far this year?
Well, Casey, the Braves are 11-1. That is the best start in the MLB so far this season, at the top of the NL East, and this is all because of their pitching. I know Justin Upton's having a hot year. He's got 7 home runs already, 11 RBIs, batting over .350 for the team. But when you look at their pitching, they are holding their batters to a 200 average at the plate, which is absolutely ridiculous in 12 games to hold them to that. They also have the best ERA in the MLB. This team is pitching lights out. Their top 4 pitchers are a combined 9-0 with Tim Hudson, Eric O'Flaherty, Tim Mahome, and Mike Minor. The guys are 9-0. They cannot be beaten. Their top 4 pitchers have not lost a game yet, and when it comes to pitching being good, that's what wins you ball games, and that's what the Braves are doing right now.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Tim Hudson seems to get better with age. Every year he's
been around
better and
year
better
after
numbers.
year, and he just keeps getting better and better. It's pretty ridiculous that the guy's still doing what he's doing, and he's hitting almost 500 at the plate for them when he gets up. So
pretty impressive. Now 9-0, but Chris, I know there's got to be some hitting involved in those wins as well.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Johnson, kind of an unsung hero here. He's batting .405 to start the year, and and the Braves are a little dinged up right now. Brian McCann, their catcher, all-star catcher, he's out. Freddie Freeman's had a slow start to the year, hasn't been playing a whole lot. So to have other guys step up in that lineup is really huge for them. Evan Gattis, he's batting .324, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs. Like you said, Upton, I mean, this guy looks like the MVP right now. .348, 7 home runs, 11 RBIs. And again, the pitching. Maholm with a 3-0, 0 ERA, Minor, .69 ERA. Even the guys in the bullpen. Craig Kimbrell, one of the best closers in baseball, ERA of 0 so far. And the same thing with their setup guy, Anthony Varvaro. I mean, bullpen, starters, lineup, everything's clicking for them right now, and they look pretty darn good to start the season.
And you kind of feel bad for Chipper Jones, who just decided to retire.
Definitely.
And now this team is just playing out of their minds.
Yeah.
And the third baseman, obviously Chris Johnson, is having an amazing year, which is good for them. But kind of feel a little bad for Chipper, probably sitting around watching these games right now.
Yeah, I mean, and even Hayward isn't having a great start right now. You think Hayward's struggling a little bit, B.J. Upton's struggling a little bit, and those are 2 big bats. If those guys get going too, I mean, they have even more ammo in that lineup, so it's pretty scary right now to think.
Yeah, pretty epic story with that kid Gattis coming out. Took a few years off out of high school, had some drug problems, I think it was. And to see him now, it's pretty impressive. And of course, he's doing it on a team like the Braves, who's hot as it is.
Yeah.
But they're not the only hot team. Oakland, 10-4, not 11-1, but it's still pretty impressive for a team like the Oakland Athletics. We're seeing old Josh Reddick, who I think the Red Sox are regretting letting go a little bit, make some big moves for them. Chris Corso, why don't you tell me a little bit about Oakland?
Well, Casey, you mentioned Reddick, and Reddick's actually batting .182, which is pretty ridiculous that this team's doing so well. On top of it, Yoenis Cespedes, the number 4 hitter, batting .200. Chris Young, an outfielder that they picked up over the offseason, who's supposed to be a big bat for them, he's batting around .200. Their 3 supposedly top hitters in their lineup are batting around .200. And look at this team, they're 10-4. And again, like we said, it's all because of the pitching. Yeah. Oakland, every year, they put together these no-name pitchers, young guys, young arms, and every year they keep doing it, and they do it with a small payroll, and you really got to give Billy Beane credit. We all saw the movie Moneyball, and for him to keep putting together these winning teams. Last season, they won the division, right? This season, they're at the top of the division, top of the AL with the first couple 15 games of the season. So this guy keeps putting together winning teams, and it's really great to see because those small market teams that don't have the money like the Yankees and the Red Sox, this is one of those teams that they keep doing it. They keep doing it every year.
It's good baseball. Yeah, well, I mean, you talked about Josh Reddick not having him, but it's actually 2 other ex-Red Sox that are really carrying the load for them right now. Jed Lowry, 3 home runs, .385 batting average. I mean, this guy, I mean, we knew when he was here he had potential. I mean, when he was in the farm system, we thought he was the next shortstop of the franchise. But with injuries, he just never really got going. And then Coco Chris, 4 home runs for Coco Chris, which is kind of funny because I don't think he had 4 home runs in his season here. I mean, this was a pure contact guy. He's batting .333. Then Seth Smith, kind of a guy that he was a journeyman with the Colorado Rockies. He's batting .448 for them. Derek Norris batting .417. So again, these kind of not no-name players, but like low-level players, good, pickups are really, coming in huge for them right now. And like you said, the pitching with the Athletics, every year they keep on getting these great pitchers out of their farm system. And this year, A.J. Griffin, 2-0, 1.93 ERA. I mean, he's leading that rotation right now. And they have 6 guys in their bullpen that have an ERA under 2. So, even if the Stars are struggling a little bit, they go to the bullpen and they are just shutting lineups down. So, again, much like the Braves, the Oakland A's, good hitting, good pitching, good bullpen, and right now they're just tough to beat.
Pitching seems to be the catalyst, really, though, for these teams having a lot of success.
Absolutely. When it comes to it, even Oakland, a bunch of their main guys are really not hitting that well, but every one of their pitchers, every night in and night out, is putting together a great performance, and I think that's the constant case with both of these teams. And I think any team that can put together some good pitching outings is going to win a bunch of ball games this year. Because I don't think the hitters are as skilled as they used to be back in the day. Definitely during the steroid era, that could have been a factor with McGuire and Sosa and all the home runs back in the 90s. Now I think it's more of a pitcher-run league in the MLB, and as you've seen from these two teams, pitching is what gets it done.
Yeah, another team that really a lot of their success is stemming from their pitching this year is the Red Sox. Some pretty good season offensively. Some guys doing what you'd expect, others not so much. It's been up and down their offensive roster, but like these other teams we mentioned, it seems like the pitching is really what is creating most of their success. Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about the Red Sox so far?
Well, Casey, we talked about this last week. The Red Sox are riding their pitchers right now, mainly Lester and Clay Buchholz, Buchholz is 3-0, Lester's 2-0. Both the guys have ERAs around 1, pretty ridiculous around this time of the year, but when each of them has had like 4 starts already. And like I said last week, Lester was the best pitcher in spring training ERA-wise when it comes to the whole MLB, and the guy's just carrying it over to the season. And with what Boston just went through at the Boston Marathon, I think the whole city's gonna round around these guys, and I really think they're just gonna continue to prosper as the year goes on. I really see them being 2 strongholds at the top of the Red Sox rotation.
Yeah, Chris, what else have you seen from this team?
I mean, well, this offense has been good so far this year, but they've had their games where they've struggled to score runs. And you look Saturday, that was a 1-1 duel. David Price, John Lester, that was a great baseball game. And Lester, stood up with the reigning Cy Young winner, pitch for pitch, and he went, 7 innings, 1 earned run. 7 innings, 1 earned run, 5 Ks. He looked very strong. I think he retired 12 straight at one point. And then Buchholz, .41 ERA. I mean, that is ridiculous right now. He had a no-hitter go into the 8th inning. And, I mean, he's just looked like he's just found something that's just clicking right now. I don't know if it's John Farrell has been able to get these guys back on track or what it is, but these 2 guys are carrying this team right now. And like you said, I mean, when you have these 2 guys at the top of your rotation, that's going to keep you in a lot of ball games. And even the game that Buchholz pitched, I think they scored 4 runs, which isn't an ungodly amount. But again, when you have great pitching, that's going to be enough to get it done, especially when you have the good bullpen. But right now, these guys are everything that you hope they could have been and more. And they're certainly a big reason for the Red Sox, success earlier on in the season.
And again, like I said before, I think it's going to be a pitcher-run league this year. Most of these teams, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the big-name teams, they don't have the bats that they used to have. There's no Manny Ramirez in the Red Sox lineup anymore. There's no Alex Rodriguez hitting 60 home runs in the Yankees lineup. This year, it's all about pitching. Everybody's leaning on their pitching. The Yankees have said it from day one. The Red Sox have said it from day one. And it's going to be all about pitching this year, especially when it comes to the AL East.
Yeah, only question I've seen really in the Red Sox pitching, we talked about seeing a lot of success from them. Joel Hanrahan, not doing his job coming in the ninth. Has had some really rough outings, had to get saved a few times. So other than that, starters look really good. The team's looking really well. So just hope he can turn it around because clearly, like Chris says, we're going to see a pitcher-run league this year. Guys, thanks for joining me. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk some NBA. Welcome back to UMass Sports Weekly. Joining me now at the table to talk a little NBA. To my right, Mike Kondo. To my left, Gavin Martin. Guys, thanks for joining me. Now, biggest news in the NBA. I think everyone saw this coming, what we're going to talk about. Kobe and the Achilles. Brutal injury for the guy. You know, it's hard not to be a fan of Kobe. It's a terrible injury. You hope you don't want to see a career ending. But we definitely know for sure it is season ending. There's no way he will be back this season to help the Lakers. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Where do the Lakers go from here?
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that Kobe Bryant is the last person on the planet you want to see this happen. I mean, everything he does just to be able to go out and play in these games, all the therapy, all the training he has to do before these games to get his body ready to play, and to see it all pretty not worth it because he can't finish the season, he can't lead his team into the playoffs. It really is sad. Honestly, heartbroken for him when I heard the news and when I saw him go down. It's terrible. Now, outlook on the rest of their season. I mean, you look at their team, they're still just as talented as anyone in the Western Conference. I mean, you still got Dwight Howard, who people forget, you know, he's in the top 5 in the NBA in rebounds, blocks, and field goal percentage. You know, you still got Paul Gasol, who's starting to look a lot more comfortable playing with Dwight Howard. He's starting to play great basketball, looking like the former All-Star that he once was. And you have Steve Nash, he's been hurt, battling injuries all year. But when he comes back, those three get on the same page, they can make a run in the playoffs. It's a completely reasonable thought. Now, today I'm going to say Wednesday night, they're going to go out, they're going to beat the Houston Rockets. I think they're going to come out because they know they need to win this game. They're going to take the 7th seed, get matched up with the San Antonio Spurs, who is the one team I think that they could maybe beat in a 7-game series, not because they're a better team, clearly not, but because Manu Ginobili likely to miss the whole first round. Tony Parker, one of those nagging ankle injuries that usually you need some time away from the game for those to heal. You know, those tend to nag on. And if those two aren't right, the Lakers really give problems to the Spurs because, you know, the Spurs aren't a great rebounding team, and the Lakers are 4th in the league in rebounding. I think the Spurs are middle of the pack around 20. And I think that's the only team I could see the Lakers beating in a 7-game series. They play OKC, you know, they're going home 4 or 5 games. So they really need to win this game, see what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah, Spurs, a lot of people are saying Spurs-Lakers. That's pretty much the best matchup you're going to get. Lakers, positional-wise and speed-wise as well, because they can't really keep up with those fast, athletic teams anymore. Gavin, what else do you see from the Lakers as possibilities from here, basically?
Well, I'm going to start to talk about Kobe Bryant. As Mike said, it's a tragic injury to see Kobe Bryant, one of the most hardworking NBA players, have an injury such like this. But if we look at the Lakers as they are, they got a good team. Hell of a front court with Powell, Dwight, and Nash nursing his injury, should be back hopefully by a few games into the playoffs. But the key for LA, I think, is establishing a backcourt. They can get Nash back, Steve Blake on the right page with him in the backcourt, Jody Meeks shooting when he's supposed to. This is a deadly offense. You're talking about veteran point guards who know how to run an offense with star big men who can score, pass, and play basketball. It's going to start with the backcourt, but it's going to continue with Powell and Dwight and how the chemistry between them works. The other night I was watching the game. Powell was passing to Dwight like he's a point guard. You know, when he's making high post passes, feeding Dwight when he needs the ball. These are things that not many big men in the game can stop, especially when both of these guys are 7 feet tall. The Spurs are going to be a tough matchup if they can face them, if they do beat Houston indeed. If they don't beat Houston and they're going to have to face OKC, they're gone. I don't even think they're going to have trouble winning a game versus Oklahoma City. They're not doing well versus them this season, but let's hope they can beat Houston. And I think, as Mike said, they can make a run versus San Antonio, and we'll have an interesting playoffs.
Yeah, they got a lot of motivation, you know, coming off. They want to prove they're still a team that can compete without Kobe. And I'm sure they're definitely trying to avoid facing OKC in the first round because it's tough to see the Lakers keeping up 4 quarters with a fast team like OKC. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for them, and basically interesting to see how the playoffs play out. Now, before it gets started, I'd like to give a little rundown, maybe get these guys' opinions, see how the playoffs will run out. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you. You think the Lakers are going to be in there? You're thinking 7th seed. How else do you see the Western Conference playoffs playing out?
You know, I got in my at least Western Conference Finals. You know, I really believe it's going to be Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Denver Nuggets. Now, when I say that, a lot of people are probably saying, "What about the Spurs? What about?" Well, the Thunder, honestly, by default, best team in the Western Conference. You know, the Western Conference is a little more wide open than usual, but I mean, I can't see a team beating them in 7 games. So they're going to, whoever they play in the first round, they're going to beat 4 or 5 games. Second round, probably face the Clippers. They're going to beat 5 or 6 games. Now, back to the Denver Nuggets. I see them beating the Warriors pretty easily in the first round. And then whoever they play in the second round, whether that's the Spurs, whether that's the Lakers, neither of those teams, I think, can beat them. The Spurs with their health issues. I mean, even if Manu Ginobili comes back for that series, what are you going to get from him at this point in the season? You don't know. Tony Parker's not going to, like I said before, not going to be himself. And the Denver Nuggets, I mean, I know they just lost Gallinari, but this could be a case of addition by subtraction because I think they have too many players at that position anyway. That means more minutes for Andre Iguodala, more minutes for Wilson Chandler, more minutes for Corey Brewer, who are all athletic wing players who rebound very well for their position. This is still one of the best offenses, one of the most explosive teams in the NBA. And again, with the rebounding, like I said before, Spurs, not a good rebounding team. Denver Nuggets second in the NBA in rebounds per game. This team gets after it. They play hard. You got to go up to Denver playing that altitude. No one wants to see them in the playoffs. Best home court team in the league. I mean, you're pretty much going to lose every game in Denver. So I see definitely those teams in the Western Conference Finals. But honestly, no one's beaten Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game series. Kevin Durant is a bad man, and there is no way he's not getting back to the finals.
Now, Gavin, got high hopes for Denver over here. We know OKC can be a favorite. How do you see it playing out?
Well, we look at these teams, and I think it comes down to matchups and injuries. All of these teams have played well versus each other and have not. And most of these teams have health problems. We look at Denver with Gallinari, the Spurs, Manus, and Tony are banged up. The Clippers are expecting Chauncey back tonight, but they've been riddled with injuries with Chris Paul, Eric Bledsoe throughout the season. And all these other teams are all capable teams. So I wouldn't be surprised. The Lakers have a good run. They could face OKC, in the finals here. The only team they would have to worry about is Denver, and Denver is injury riddled. And also, Denver's a team that's not very experienced. We're talking about players like Andre Iguodala, Ty Lawson as their star players. These are great players. These are all-star players, but they don't have the experience that Steve Nash might have or Pau Gasol. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking in the finals, I think we're going to see an OKC Spurs matchup. People count out the Spurs too much this type of year. I know it's Spur-like to get Manu, Tony Moore hurt and lose a series 3-1 to whoever they play. But I think this year Greg Popovich is going to nail them down, get them to the finals. But I cannot disagree with Kevin Durant leading his team to the Western Conference Finals. The guy can play. We got that. It's a pretty clear favorite across the board with OKC on the Western Conference. Flipping over to the Eastern Conference, kind of the same ordeal with the favorite being the Miami Heat. We know it's kind of almost above and beyond the rest of the pack. But Mike, what do you got for the Eastern Conference playoffs?
I mean, when you talk about the playoffs, it's honestly all irrelevant because the Miami Heat are going to lose very few games in their run back to the NBA Finals. I mean, what are they? I think they're like 12 games ahead from the second seed New York Knicks. I mean, they're really far above everyone else in that conference. I mean, and what's scary about this team is they're even better than last year, the team that won the championship pretty easily over the Thunder. And it's pretty good to say when your team and your fourth and fifth best players are Ray Allen and Mario Chalmers. Not many teams can say that. This is the most talented team, very experienced team, but they're experienced and they're still pretty young. I mean, Dwayne Wade's getting old, but your best player, LeBron James, 28 years old. It's incredible to watch. They're going to play the New York Knicks in the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference Finals, and I don't really see too many teams beating the Knicks in a 7-game series. I mean, they're going to have a tough first-round matchup with the Boston Celtics, definitely. The Celtics, not a team that will go out easy. Absolutely not. Then I can see them beating the Pacers a few games in the second round. Pacers are a tough team. They haven't been playing well as of late. And then it's going to be a great series to see the Knicks play the Heat. The Knicks are pretty much built to beat the Heat. And, any team that can stretch the floor and shoot as well as the Knicks do is going to have a shot against the Heat. That's the only way to beat them, honestly. And but at the end of the day, the Miami Heat are going to take it, 5 or 6 games just because they are way more talented than anyone they're going to play in this league.
Knicks Heat Eastern Conference Finals from Mike Kondo. Gavin, what do you got?
I'm going to have to agree with you on this one, actually. The Knicks are flooded with studs. You look at a team like this, they're playing well now, and they took the second seed, but you're talking about a team that hasn't had Amari Stoudemire most of the season, has games without Carmelo Anthony, includes the sixth man of the year, J.R. Smith, who's averaging 18.5 points a game, 2.5 assists, 5 rebounds. The guy's stats are off the chart as a sixth man. This team is flooded with experience, talent, and motivation. Carmelo hasn't won a playoff series ever. He's runner-up for the MVP. In my mind, I don't see why he wouldn't make it to the finals. But this Miami-New York Knicks matchup is going to be a thriller. They're 2-2 versus each other this year. Both good games. The Knicks, they just have to come to play. LeBron and his friends in Miami are tough to play against. And I think it's also going to come down when you're playing a series like that, you got to take your home games. When the Knicks get their games at home, they got to take those games because playing in South Beach with LeBron feeling at home, it's very tough to take those games home, especially the fact that last year they won the championship.
Yeah. You mentioned Amari Stoudemire coming back, but to me that's a cause for concern because listen, they haven't played well with Amari Stoudemire in the lineup. They haven't. Carmelo and him really can't figure it out. I think that could be their only thing stopping them from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals is what are they going to do when they play the Pacers and they have Amari Stoudemire in the lineup and it's just not working out. I think that's definitely cause for concern and something they need to figure out.
Well, a lot of storylines in the NBA playoffs, that's for sure. It's going to be an exciting one to watch with a lot of teams playing very well right now. A lot of players like Melo, as Gavin mentioned, playing some really good basketball. Now, Gavin, you mentioned that you got Melo as your runner-up for MVP now. We got regular season pretty much wrapping up, playoffs right around the corner. Why don't you tell us your regular season MVP and some other awards as well?
MVP, I think anyone who has watched a basketball game this season can pick LeBron James. He's doing things that no basketball player in history has done. He's playing out of his mind. Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard averaging 19 points a game, 6.5 assists, 3 rebounds a game as a rookie. He's leading his team on and off the court. He's mature. I know he's 23-year-old rookie. I think he is 22, but this guy's mature. This guy can lead a team, just first year in the league. Defensive Player of the Year, Roy Hibbert. He is only having 2.6 blocks a game, which is 4th in the league, but the way this guy affects the game, it's unbelievable on defense. He's blocking shots. He's getting rebounds. He's the whole package. 6th Man of the Year, go back to my Nick, J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith's averaging 18, 5, and 3. Great man off the bench, always adds a spark to the Knicks. And I would say if J.R.'s telling him all the time, if J.R. Smith wasn't on the Knicks, he'd be a star player. It'd be another player you're talking about averaging 24, 25 points a game.
Yeah, J.R. Smith's one of those James Harden-esque people where you put him on another team to shine and you don't know what he could do. Now, Mike, you hear what he has to say? You got any commonalities among those awards?
We agreed 2 areas, we disagree in 2 areas. Now, obviously, MVP, not much to talk about. And it's sad because, a guy like Kevin Durant having a historically great season, shooting 50% from the field, 40 from 3, 90 from the free throw line. That's only happened a few times in history. He's going to do it, and no one cares because LeBron James is that good. And, he deserves the award. Good for him. He's having one of the best seasons I've ever seen. Rookie of the Year, also agree, Damian Lillard. Everything you said, 19-6 as a rookie. My favorite stat about Damian Lillard, he's 2nd in the NBA in minutes, which is incredible for a rookie. And with all the injuries, Nicholas Batum, Wesley Matthews, battling injuries all year. 2 pretty good players. And to run the offense like he's done with everything going on in their team, all those injuries, it's incredible to watch. Now, Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to have to go with Joakim Noah. Whether you're playing pickup basketball, rec basketball, you're playing in the NBA, you're playing tag in the backyard, this guy is going to be working the hardest. He's going to have the biggest motor out of anybody. That man really, probably, in my opinion, probably the best role player in the NBA. If you starting a team, that's the guy you want on your team is Joakim Noah. Averaging, the rebounds, the blocks are there. Great player. 6th Man, we also disagree. If you look at the numbers, J.R. Smith's numbers probably better. But I'm going to give it to Jamal Crawford only because on his team, on the Clippers, he's their best pure scorer, and they need him to carry the burden a lot more in the 4th quarter than as opposed to Knicks do for J.R. Smith. In the 4th quarter, Chris Paul, he could score when he wants to, but he's not that type of player. He's best when he's setting other people up. And Jamal Crawford, really, in the 4th quarter, he shines. That's when Jamal Crawford comes alive. I think he's 1st or 2nd in the NBA in 4th quarter scoring, something like that. So that's why I'm going to give him the slight edge over J.R. Smith in 4th quarter scoring, just because I think, 6th Man of the Year, because I think he means just a little more to his team than J.R. Smith does.
Well, we'll see how these guys shine in the playoffs and if they can come up to the high hopes you guys have given them here with these awards. Thanks for joining me on the table. Stay tuned, and we'll be back to finish up with the roundup.
The Roundup.
Welcome back to UMass Sports Weekly. Here joining me at the table for the roundup is Joey Sade and JMS Jesse Mayfield Sheehan. Guys, thanks for joining me. Here on the roundup, we usually like to talk about different sporting events that we didn't get to cover in earlier segments. For this one, because it's really fresh on our minds and it is somewhat of a sporting event, we wanted to talk a little bit about the Boston Marathon. As most people would know by now, there was some bombings at the Boston Marathon yesterday. Right at the finish line where most of the traffic is for people crossing, people waiting for loved ones to cross, and just pretty horrific event. But we wanted to relate it to more sports terms because we know we do talk about sports, and we felt we could state a little bit of our feelings on it. Now, once this happened, the Celtics were canceled, Bruins were canceled, Red Sox had a day game, so they were not canceled. They're playing today. We saw moments of silence all over the country from all different teams. Yankees will be playing Sweet Caroline today during the third inning. So you're seeing a lot of stuff support Boston. Joey, how does this affect other sporting events? We know Boston Marathon is one of the biggest sporting events in the entire world in a year, but how does this affect other sporting events in terms of people maybe like fearing for what's going on in such large gatherings?
First, Casey, I'd like to say my thoughts and prayers are with the families and those who were affected by the horrible tragedy yesterday in Boston, and my prayers are still with them. I couldn't get it off my mind yesterday. It really hit me hard because I don't live in Boston, but I work in Boston. I know a lot of people from Boston. I know some people who are running in that marathon, and thank God they're okay. But it's still never okay to see a tragedy like that happen. And sports always tends to take a back seat when we talk about life. We take off our sports caps, and we're real people here, and these are real people that got hurt. So sports tends to take a back seat. But relating this to sports because it was the Boston Marathon, and the Boston Marathon is widely known not just in this country but in the world as one of the more popular events in the history of the world. It's been going on for over a century. So for that to happen at an event like that, it kind of shows a symbolism and very saddening, and I just thought it was a very, very cruel act altogether. But how it relates to sports, I think it was great to see the country come together yesterday. We saw a lot of sporting events after the marathon. They had moment of silences at every game. You saw, pray for Boston, we love Boston, around the whole country, not just in the city of Boston. It showed the spirit of not just our state of Massachusetts, but the whole world. Our whole country, everyone's supporting us because things like this do happen everywhere, although they shouldn't happen. And I think that, just relating to sports in general, I think because Boston is such a sports city, and people here, they're in love with sports. We're all in love with sports. It's the reason why we do this. I think one of the big things is that sports can bring people together, and I believe that it will. And you already see a bunch of athletes throwing out, their respects and putting up their money for funds that go to the tragedies, the families of this tragedy yesterday. So I think that sports in general can kind of take people's mind off of this because not only is Boston one of the best sports cities in the world, in my opinion, but the people here, they have so much faith and respect and dignity. And there's no way that this city is going to fall from this event. I know everyone's going to get back, get to things as they were before. So relating to sports, I think things are going to pick up back to normal. The Celtics, the Red Sox, the Bruins, they're obviously going to pay their respects for the rest of the season and probably, for the future going forward. So I think that it kind of gives everyone that up. Everyone was kind of feeling down yesterday, but now they have a feeling that they have to play for something. I think you're going to see that not just in Boston, but around the whole country.
Yeah, but we will be especially seeing it in Boston because it's happening in Boston, and the sports will be what really helps bring people together. It helps, it's like a coping factor. You can escape from it a little bit. But Jesse, what's it like? I mean, it's easy for us to talk about because what is it like when something like this hits so close to home, and you see it's different seeing other teams when they react to their cities. But this is our teams and our players reacting to our city. So what's it like when it hits closer to home?
Well, it's most definitely different. I mean, this hit, like you said, way too close to home. I mean, I'm not from the city of Boston, but I'm from right next to it. I mean, I walk right around the corner of my house and there's Boston. So this definitely hit close to home. And think a friend of mine, Mark Chiarelli, he put it really well in a blog post that he posted last night. He said, I was so, after the sadness came anger. How could these people bomb my city? How could they injure my people? I mean, a rule of thumb we have in journalism is you don't use terms like we and my. You don't say we when you refer to the Boston Red Sox. You don't say my city when you refer to Boston. But the fact is that those sort of bonds and feelings do form when you get this attached to a sports team or to a city. You can't escape those kinds of feelings. They are there. And that's just the fact of the matter with how we feel about our city and about our teams. That's just how we feel. And that's how it feels with this. You know, they attacked our city. They attacked our people. You know, it could have been our friends. It could have been our families. Could have been any one of our loved ones. You know, I had an aunt who was right near the finish line when it went down, and she could have easily gotten hurt at that kind of incident. You know, it just sends everybody into, you know, not just mayhem, but also a large state of fear. As you know, you see people just crazy trying to text people back in eastern Massachusetts, trying to make sure that they're nowhere near the area. You see people posting on Facebook just saying, "Everyone I know out there, are you okay?" You know, it's, you know, everybody out there just scared, making sure that their loved ones are okay. But like Joey said, it's these kind of events that bring people together. You know, you saw so many people reach out to help. You saw, you know, people going straight from the finish line to the nearest hospital to donate blood. You saw first responders coming in and doing such a great job to help people. You saw hundreds and hundreds of people offering up food and shelter for the victims of this tragedy. It was really, you know, it really showed, as cliched as it is, that our darkest days can be followed by our finest hours. And in terms of sports, you know, I think it really shows the way that the other teams have been giving these tributes to Boston. It really shows the way Joey has been saying, you know, sports are a great way to unite us. I mean, they can be, you know, a great way to express emotion, great outlet for our frustrations, and a great way to become a part of something, as I said before, as you form bonds with those teams. But also, at the end of the day, you know, when something like this happens, you realize it's a game. It's supposed to be fun. And at the end of the day, you know, whether you're rivals like the Red Sox and Yankees, even then, at the end of the day, you can shake hands and still be friends. And the sign that the Yankees currently have on their stadium, showing both teams' logos and saying "United We Stand," really says it all. You know, even with such, you know, harsh history between those two teams, at the end of the day, when something like this happens, you know, those two teams are still there for each other. You know, even with all the harshness between those two teams, you know, they still care, because at the end of the day, like Joey said, we are all people. I think that's what an event like this really shows at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's really great to see everyone come together in support of Boston. Doesn't matter how strong the rivalries really are in sports, they still come together for something as tragic as this. Now, I just want to get you guys' opinions on this, because, as we were saying, this is one of the biggest sporting events in the world every year. They get an unbelievable amount of people that show up. And the Boston Marathon, it isn't like a Super Bowl in that it's one of the biggest events in the world, but you're walking through a security gate to get into the Super Bowl. You have to walk through security. Boston Marathon is a 22-mile stretch where you could walk at any point. I understand this happened at the finish line, but it's the prospect of it's hard. It's really hard to secure such a large amount of area. So I want to get your guys' opinion. Jesse, I'll actually start with you on looking into the Boston Marathon in the future, even in the near future, is next year. It's hard to say what changes can occur, because you know they're doing everything they can. But what will the attitude be like, maybe towards towards the Boston Marathon next year?
Well, without a doubt, there's going to be an attitude of increased security. I mean, we saw this immediately. As soon as the tragedy went down, other cities, New York, D.C., Los Angeles, all sorts of cities started upping securities at hotels and other large buildings. You know, as soon as a tragedy like this strikes, people feel a need for greater security. They feel scared. They feel, if this could happen so close to home, it could just as easily happen to me. So I feel that, you know, at the next Boston Marathon, for one thing, there's going to be a much more somber feeling, I feel, you know, as a response to the events that occurred yesterday. And secondly, I feel there's definitely going to be a feeling of heightened security. There's definitely going to, you know, people are going to feel a need for that. And I'm not entirely sure how they're going to heighten the security around there. Like you said, it's a bit of a challenge, and I'm no security expert, so I'm not going to be able to offer up any solutions myself. But without a doubt, there's going to be heightened security around there.
Now, Joey, in response, because next year's Boston Marathon will kind of be a response to this year's Boston Marathon. It's kind of hard. You have your official responses, but it's kind of hard to respond in a mass grouping kind of way. Do you see next year's Boston Marathon drawing less people because of the fear, or maybe drawing more people because of the tribute?
I'm going to see a lot more people there, I believe. I think that's the one thing that you can't stop. You know, whoever set out to do this tragic, horrible event, he set out to try to maybe stop this event or try to, you know, create a fear in the city of Boston and in the entire country. But there's no way that this city is going to stop this event. And I plan on going next year. I plan on going to supporting, and I believe that there are many people that, you know, believe the same way. You know what? If the one thing that will hurt us is if we act as if we were feared by this. And that makes the person, whoever set this up, win. And there's no way that's going to happen, especially in the city of Boston. The city has way too much heart, the city around it, the people from Massachusetts. There's no way they're going to let some minuscule person defeat us. And I believe that everyone's going to show up with more support. Jesse said there's going to be more security, definitely. I think not just at the Boston Marathon, but in, you know, events in general. As we saw after 9/11, security spiked up ridiculously. So I think that's going to take place again, not just in Boston, but across the entire country. And I also just see more people getting together and understanding that, you know what, although we may have lost this battle, you know, we have people hurt, some, you know, fatalities, which is very sad. There's no way it's going to stop us. There's no way it's going to stop the American people, the heart that we have. There's no way that an event like this is going to stop. So I see, you know, I wouldn't even be surprised if there was another marathon maybe later in this year just to kind of finish it, because the marathon never ended. You know, they obviously had to cancel it because of the bombings. So I think we're going to fight back, and there's no way that this is going to stop us. No way.
Yep. Like President Obama said, Boston is a tough and resilient city, and so are its people. I agree with you. They're definitely going to fight back.
Boston, one of the toughest cities in the country. This won't be the end of any Boston Marathon or athletics in Boston. It's just another bump they have to overcome. Terrible, terrible bump, but one that will be overcame by a city like Boston. Our prayers at UMass Sports Weekly are with all the families and everyone affected by that, and with Boston. Guys, thanks for joining me and talking about this. And thank you at home for watching, and we'll be back next week with our final show of the year, so come back, same time, same place.